Hey, boys and girls, this is Mr. Bell from Mr. Bell's Math. I'm just about to talk with you guys about converting units of measure using proportions, unit rates, and also using conversion factors. Okay, so let's get started. First thing you need to remember is what a proportion is, and a proportion is basically two ratios that are equal. And you can use that because if you have one part of your proportion missing, one part of your ratio, you can use the rest of the proportion to help you find that missing piece. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about first. I want to go ahead and talk about this problem right here where it says the weight of a 3-pound human brain in ounces. What is that weight? Okay, so the first thing you want to do is write a proportion. Now I'm looking down at this table down here where it says weight, 1 pound equals 16 ounces. Okay, so I'm going to write a proportion based on that information there. So I'm going to say 16 ounces, all right, is equal to 1 pound, if I can make that all work, all right? And that is going to be equal to some unknown number over 3 pounds. Okay, so what you want to remember when you're setting up a ratio or a proportion is that you have to keep your factor, your items in the same spot. So here I have ounces and I have pounds on the bottom. Okay, so here is going to be my ounces because we want to know how many ounces the brain weighs. Okay, so I got my ounces up here and I got my pounds down here. So I got ounces, pounds, ounces, pounds. All right, that's the way it needs to be set up. So the next step says to use equivalent ratios. All right, so basically what that means, and we've been doing this in class already, we've been talking about equivalent ratios. You can look at this bottom number here, or whatever number you have, and say, okay, what did I do to this 1 pound to get to 3 pounds? And it's going to be either one of two things. You're either going to multiply or you're going to divide. So in this case, hopefully you can say, ooh, well, I multiplied that 1 times 3 to get to 3. So let's change colors. You would say, I multiplied times 3 to get that 3. So then you just basically multiply the top in order to keep it equivalent. That's what we're talking about here, by the same number. So I'm going to multiply 16 times 3. 16 times 3 just happens to be, oh, not 32, 48. I almost said 42. 48, and in this case we're talking about ounces. So the weight of a 3-pound human brain in ounces is 48 ounces. Okay, and we used a proportion to solve that. All right, here we got this next problem. It says Mary Catherine makes 2 gallons of punch, and for her party, how many cups of punch did she make? Okay, so I'm going back to that. I'm not going to actually flip back, but I'm using that conversion chart that was on that last page, and it says that, well, first of all, let's write this down. Write this in black. I know I got 2 gallons. I'm just going to, and I want to know how many cups that makes. Okay, so I went to the conversion chart and I looked, and it said 1 gallon equals 4 quarts. Okay, and that's going to equal 16 cups. Okay, because there's 1 gallon has 4 quarts, but each quart has 4 cups. Okay, so in order to make it 1 gallon, I multiplied the 4 quarts times the 4 cups, and I came up with 16 cups. So that tells me that the conversion is going to be 1 gallon to 16 cups. Okay, now I want to find out if I have 2 gallons, how many cups is that going to be? Okay, let's just put an X there because I'm going to show you another way too. All right, so using my conversion, not my conversion, but my equivalent fractions, equivalent ratios, What did I multiply 1 by to get to 2? Well, I multiplied by 2, so that tells me I multiplied the bottom times 2, and that gives me 32. Okay, so that tells me there are 32 cups in 2 gallons. All right, another way we could have done this, I'm going to change it to another color just so you know. I got 1 gallon over 16 cups equals 2 over, and we're going to use the variable x again. You can cross multiply. We've talked about that in class, where if two ratios are equal, they make a proportion. So you can use that information to find missing values. So if I cross multiply, 1 times x is x, 16 times 2 is 32, guess what? That's it. That's all you had to do. So 32 ounces, or 32 cups rather. Okay, super easy. All right, let's look at one more problem. This is an African elephant weighs 6 tons. What is the weight of that elephant in pounds? All right, so let me go back to black. I know that 6 tons, write that down, 6 tons equals some unknown number of pounds. Okay, we don't know what that number is. So I look back at that conversion chart. You should become very familiar with this thing so it helps you in future problems. But I know that 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. Okay, so I'm going to use that conversion. I mean this ratio of 1 ton to 2,000 pounds is equal to 6 tons and some unknown number. Okay, I don't know what this number is. So I want to look at my equivalent, I'm going to use my equivalent ratios. All right, what did I multiply 1 by to get 6? Well, I multiplied times 6. So if I do the same thing to the bottom, that's going to make it equivalent. So 2,000 times 6, and this is a little bigger right in that square that I have, but we have 12,000. Okay? I can also do it the way that I showed you earlier. I could set up the proportion. 1 ton over 2,000 pounds is equal to 6 tons over some unknown number of pounds. If I cross multiply, all right, x times 1 is x, and then 2,000 times 6 is 12,000. Okay. Sometimes you're going to have to divide. It's not going to be this easy, but you know this gives you a good idea how to do it. Either way works. All right, so that's good. Now, the next thing I want to show you is using conversion factors. Okay, you might say, Mr. Bell, what's a conversion factor? Well, guess what? I'm glad you asked. Another way to convert measurements is by using a conversion factor. A conversion factor is a ratio comparing two equivalent measurements. Okay, so this is great stuff. I like this. Okay, I'm just recently starting to embrace this idea. So here in this example that we have, let me make sure I'm in the right color of ink. First thing you want to do is find your conversion factor. Okay, so here we have Elena, and she wants to buy 2 gallons of milk, but can only find quart containers for sale. How many quarts does she need? Okay, so she wants to find out how many quarts in 2 gallons. QTS. All right, how many quarts in 2 gallons? Okay, so I know. So the first thing you want to do is find your conversion factor. That's what I'm looking for first. All right, so I know my conversion factor. If I go back to my table, I want to look for, you know, how many quarts in gallons. So I got 4 quarts, and this is, that's a Q. That's not a, I mean, it's a G. It's not a Q. I want to make sure that I write my my units on here, okay, because that's helpful. So I got 4 quarts equal 1 gallon, okay, and oops, I'm not going to equal that. I'm actually going to multiply that times my conversion factor, which is 2 gallons. Okay, so now here's how this works. When you have your conversion factor here, let me go to a highlighter. When I have my conversion, that's the worst color highlighter ever. All right, I just won't do that anymore. All right, so I want to multiply by gallons. Okay, so that means I want to have my gallons on the bottom here. Okay, because what's going to happen is you're going to cancel your gallons out. Let me change that color ink. You're going to cancel that gallons out with that gallons there. Okay, so what happens left is that all you have is your quarts. So you basically put this over 1, because you want to multiply the fraction times a fraction. 4 times 2 is 8 over 1. So guess what? There are 8 quarts in 2 gallons. All right? So it's just that easy. You multiply the given measurement by the conversion factor, and that's all you have to do. All right, let's look at a couple examples. All right, quickly, we'll look at a couple examples. So, a package weighs 96 ounces. What is the weight of the package in pounds? So I just happen to know, I'm looking for 96 ounces is how many pounds? All right, how many ounces? All right, so I know that I have 1 pound equals 16 ounces. Okay, I'm going to put my units down here, and I'm going to multiply that times 96 ounces. All right, my ounces are going to cancel, and that's going to leave me with 1 times 90, because I'm putting this over 1, so I'll multiply the tops. That's going to leave me 96 over 16, and this is going to simplify to 6 pounds. Remember, because what I have left is pounds, so that's what my answer is in pounds. Okay, I'm going to show you one more example, and then I'm going to be done. All right, last one. It says a jet flies at an altitude of 52,800 feet. What is the height of the jet in miles? So I'm looking for 52,800 feet is how many miles? All right, how many miles? So I know in 1 mile I have 5,280 feet. Once again, that comes from that conversion chart. All right, and I'm going to multiply that times 52,800. Make sure I put my units on here. Mile. Oops, one more zero. Feet. Okay, my units are going to cancel. This unit and this unit. I'm going to put that over 1. And that's going to leave me with my miles. So 1 times 52,800, and then 5,280 over 1 equals 5,280. Well, guess what? These cancel, and leaves me with just 10 miles. Okay, remember, because that's that unit that I didn't cancel. All right, so that's a quick overview on how to do converting units of measure, using proportions, and using conversion factors. Answer the questions. Be ready for your stuff in class.